to the Human Services Committee meeting for July 19th, 2023. Call the meeting to order. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from June 21? And a second? And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This brings us to the privilege of the floor. Is there anyone here for privilege of the floor? Seeing no one, we will go to the one and only proposed resolution authorizing the contract with Chautauqua Lake Central School District for fueling of county motor vehicles.
Good afternoon, Todd Thomas from the Law Department. This is a new proposed resolution. We've had interest from a couple county departments, Emergency Services and Department of Health, for the new mobile health unit. Everyone's encouraged to check out this afternoon for a refueling station here in the Mayville area. Chautauqua Lake Central School has offered an interim contract where the rate would be bid price plus 3 cents per gallon surcharge for their administrative fees. And we've drafted this in terms of a general contract where these departments are the ones that have raised the issue currently, but we're asking for general authority through the county executive to add additional departments should, and we don't think there are any, but should any further county departments want access to the Chautauqua Lake pumps.
Okay, I heard this once. So.
I tried to change it up a little to keep it interesting.
Any questions or concerns? Nothing? Okay.
Good to me.
All in
Thank you.
favor?
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So now we have a discussion, the reorganization of the finance department. We ready?
You just got done. Whoops.
You'll have to tell me if I missed anything. Okay. Oh, that's right, I have to put it on. Why is maybe I need my mouse, sorry.
Shouldn't.
No, my screen wasn't responding.
Oh, your screen too.
I think the little mouse pad wasn't working on the tablet. Do I have it in here? Okay. Okay. So I just wanted to update, the legislature, and it was on a project we've been working on probably about the last a little bit more than a year. But we've been looking at basically centralizing fiscal staff in the county. So I know the two of you are newer legislators, so you might not know as much about how the fiscal staff are organized in the county, but we have a main county finance department. We handle the treasury, audit, like accounts payable, accounts receivable, payroll, purchasing, our workers' comp plan, liability, and the budget director also is under the umbrella of finance. So the budget director is appointed by the county executive. So that's the core finance department right now. And then each department has their assigned fiscal person or unit. The bigger departments, like social services or the sheriff's office, they have several people that are fully dedicated to fiscal affairs in the department. So what we're looking at is transferring those positions under finance for a variety of reasons. And so that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. So this is a presentation that we recently gave to all of the fiscal staff because, like I said, we started this project. We had put a work group together to look at what we're doing now and where we can, restructure and where we might find improvements. So it was a long process, but we had a lot of good feedback. We had people from a variety of different departments participating in the work group, so we recently brought them all in and said, okay, here's what we've been working on, and here's a go forward plan. So the word is out, and so we just wanted to get the word out to the legislature as well. So again, starting with some of the concerns that we wanted to address, or goals that we wanted to achieve, we do see from our perspective, and I'll just I used an example in the last meeting when I was meeting with one of the departments and their fiscal person, and kind of explained some of the concerns from our perspective. She's like, a light bulb went off, and she said, okay, well, your department's kind of the cleanup department, because if there's any problems along the way, gets to us, and now we have to clean it up. And we want to start at the beginning of the process and ensure that people know how to do it from the beginning, so there isn't as much cleanup at the end. So we do find that from department to department, there's sometimes inconsistencies in how tests are performed. We also see that there's a lack of a clear promotional track for fiscal staff, and we don't have good succession planning. We have a lot of like mid and entry level positions, and then we have more senior positions, but not a lot in the middle. And then with civil service on top, there's not, if you're kind of scattered around the county in different departments, you're not kind of learning that step by step, responsibilities leading up to a more senior position. Because a lot of the more senior positions do reside in the finance department. So in civil service, if you transfer from one department to another, there's different rules in terms of you have to already be on a list for a test. Some of the other titles like not budget director is not tested, but deputy director of finance is an example. It's a tested position, but it's a management level position that's tested, but the test is really only given if you're going to appoint somebody. It's not given that often. Whereas like a senior account clerk test, it's a continuous recruitment. So that test is given at least once a year. So there's some titles that there's no list. Somebody would be provisional, which means if they didn't come out in the top reachable score when the exam is given, then they wouldn't have rights back to their position in another department. But if they're already all in finance, then they would have rights back to their position within the department. So
Can I ask what reachable?
reachable. So with civil service, the competitive position. So when the test is given, let's just say you have 20 people that took the exam. When we get the scores back, the people who are first to be considered, so to speak, are those in the top 3 scores. And that can kind of happen in a couple of ways. So let's just say there's 5 people that got a 100. So those 5 people would be the first ones to be considered. But let's say you had one person that got 100, and one person that got a 90, and 5 people that got a 85. All of those would be considered. So it's a little tricky, but you have to be in the top 3, and the top 3 is defined, can come out a couple of different ways. So
So all of those people are reachable?
those people are reachable if they're in the top 3, what's considered the top 3. And then there's a lot of times where maybe some, people that take those exams, they're taking them also for the school districts and other municipalities, because those titles are also used there, and the county does the civil service for all the municipalities. So sometimes people on that list aren't even taking the test because they want a job with the county, they want a job at the school. And so you kind of go through, and it's called canvassing the list, and all the people on the list are contacted to see, are you interested in this particular job posting, yes or no. So through that process, sometimes you get further down on the list, but still through the process, you have to be reachable. So if you're taking a position now, but the test is not going to be given in a year from now, you do have a risk if you don't end up in that reachable status once the results are back. So there's a lot of things like that, and a lot of that we're struggling just right now in general in terms of there weren't tests given during COVID, and we're still in catch up, and even the continually recruited positions, we've exhausted lists, and now we're seeking applications from by advertising, but still those people still do have to take the test in the future. So if they're going to leave a job elsewhere and come here, if they're confident that they're generally a good test taker, they might not worry about it, but some people, do worry about it, and they decline it, or just don't apply. So,
There's a lot of pressure to pass the test.
Oh, yeah, especially civil service.
yeah, so it's I've never seen it like this before. Especially for fiscal positions, they're generally pretty sought after. But right now, we have about 10 different fiscal openings across all county departments, which is so. Most of my time lately seems to be on recruitment, interviews, and scheduling and sort of thing. So unusual, but we're plugging away at it. So, some of the other reasons that we're looking at restructuring, we've seen maybe some job titles that are utilized differently, and we want to provide more consistency there, so that you're in the proper title. So when a promotion comes up, you're in a track that you can promote within that title to the next title. Another big area is with, and we did see this emphasized during COVID, but it's always a concern. We have employees, they may go out on a medical leave, unexpected or expected, or just somebody decides that they do take a promotional opportunity in another department, or they leave the county or retire, and then all of a sudden there's a gap, and you can't just pull somebody from over here to fill in until we fill this position because they're in another department under another department head. So that creates challenges, because we'd like there to be more cross-training and somebody to kind of fill in when we do have those people that go on a leave, especially if it's a smaller or mid-sized department. Maybe they have 2 or 3 people, and if one's not there and there's no one else to fill the gap, it does put a stress on that department. Conversely, we have people in departments that a small department, they're maybe 10 or 15 or 20% of their time is on fiscal duties throughout the year. So maybe they help with the budget once a year. It gets to the next year and they're, okay, how do we do the budget again? Sort of thing. Or year end, how do we do accruals? That sort of thing. So we want to take that burden off of those people who do they get stressed out about it because it's not really their core expertise. They're good at what they do primarily in their role. And so we want to, take those fiscal duties and give them to people who that is their skill set. And, I also see from time to time, a department head, I had one not long ago say, well, I wouldn't really know if my fiscal person was doing what, doing everything they should be or doing it correctly. Like they're not able to train their employee on their fiscal tasks. Generally, the finance department goes and provides training to new hires or people that take on different duties. We will go and train them. But so we'd like to have supervisors that have the fiscal skills supervising the people that need to do that work. So like I said, we put a work group together. We spent a good year meeting pretty regularly, sometimes twice a month or once a month, depending on what else was going on. And, came up with a new org structure, which I'll get to in just a second. Once we had that structure, We met with department heads. In advance of that, we also did a fiscal staff survey. So we had departments kind of give us a list of individuals who are doing fiscal tasks by category. So we just had a general sense, a better sense of how many people might be ultimately part of this transition. And then we met with department heads to give them the plan, and then kind of task them with, taking another look at that list, because at some point we're going to have to say, yes, these are the people who are going to transfer. So they've been tasked with that. And then, like I said, recently we gave this presentation to the broader fiscal group to, start the conversation at the employee level. So I know this is hard to see, and I'm going to send this out to you, after, but the division here is what will be the new division. The other boxes there are already part of the finance department. So the new division that we've titled Department of Fiscal Management Division. And so under that division, what we've put together are, I've been calling them teams or groups, and align those groups or subdivisions with the legislative committees. So as an example, the Human Services subdivision would be responsible for to the department heads under Human Services. So all the departments that report to the Human Services Committee would have a lead person that's responsible to the department heads to help them with their budgets, planning, analysis, any types of special projects, that require a fiscal person, make sure all the invoices are being processed, and if they have claims or billing. Now, not all departments have billing, but some departments have a big billing responsibility. We have, landfill customer billing, we have sewer billing, we have, third-party insurance billing. So a variety of different things. So longer term, that's kind of our next down the road, kind of take a deeper dive in how we want to structure billing, especially medical insurance billing, because we have that in mental health clinics and with the fly car. And, some of it we outsource, some of it we do in-house. So what is the better model to kind of create a core competency in the county, or would it be better to have that type of thing, contracted out with people that just do medical billing, because it's complicated. So, but in any case, so the boxes down below represent the categories of work that are going to be done under each subdivision. They're not necessarily represent individual people. So what we think this structure accomplishes is that the department heads still have their go-to person, a group of people that are, handling their fiscal tasks. The legislator committees have kind of at least one go-to person. They'll probably be, some of these divisions, Human Services, that subdivision is likely going to be at least 20 people under that branch, because some of those departments are bigger and already do have a big fiscal unit. So we're trying to, meet the needs of the department heads and, the legislative committees, and also finance. So, and then the position that will be heading this overall division is the title there is Director of Administration. And that was the title Val List was in when she was with the county. And we felt it did fit for the responsibilities that this position will have, which will really be to review all policy, procedure, drive that consistency, drive the staff development, succession planning, and be a resource to each of the subdivisions, and fill in when they need to. Let's say one of these subdivision leads promotes or retires. So we did hire somebody for this position. He'll be starting next week, so I'm pretty happy about that. I also see him as a good fit for staying with the county and even being promoted from where he'll be here. And I think for because down the road, maybe I might retire someday. Not saying anytime soon. I don't want to be worried, but I am really mindful in filling some of these positions and thinking about how they might fill. Todd, I know he's in a few years, he'll probably be looking at retirement. He does a lot. So it'd be kind of good to have some people lined up to fill some of those slots. The grant administrator position, that's a little bit just on the side here, but we're looking at adding, and I don't want to say adding a position. It would just be, I'm hoping that, through all of this, there'll just be, because we're not intending to increase staff or decrease staff. That's not the intent of this process. It's really just to change the supervision and oversight and have more consistency throughout. But with a grant administrator or coordinator, we haven't determined what that title might be, but the responsibilities would be more. We don't have a good way right now to say, okay, what are all the grants across the county? We don't have software that does that. We'd have to query each department and have them send us a list and put that list together because we just haven't had the resources to, maybe investigate, is there better software that we can use for something like that? We'd also like, somebody that can really help the departments and with their grant applications, standard content, perhaps, or even researching, having somebody more dedicated to researching grant opportunities. But we also have some existing things that are not specific to one department. A couple examples are the ARPA administrative duties. Kathleen Dennison has been performing those duties, but she effectively retired and stayed on part-time, but she'll be at part-time through August, and we'll wrap up the most recent quarter reporting for ARPA, and then we'll temporarily assign those duties to Steve Dando. But we'll need somebody to be filling that role for a couple more years. Additionally, the opioid settlement funds, those are going to be ongoing for 10 years or something like that. But those funds come in and there's a portal you have to log on to see what all the settlements, there's 10 different settlements. They each have a different payout schedule. They each have different terms in terms of what you can use those funds for. So kind of right now I've been doing a little of that. But it just started last year. So it'd be nice to have somebody that can handle those things that aren't specific to one department. They kind of cross over multiple departments. We also have like portals that, you have to have somebody to grant other county employees access. And right now Todd does some of that. So there's enough things that I think could be on somebody's plate, and we can improve, our understanding of our grants and the grants management. And also in the past, some things there's deadlines too, as far as when you can apply for grants. So there was a situation a while back that, we missed the deadline, and it was just for not it could have been avoided. I'll just put it that way. It wasn't anyone's particular fault, but it was a situation that could have been avoided. And I think if we had a more dedicated person, something like that wouldn't fall through the cracks. So I think, for the most part, we achieved, the goals and that we were looking to overcome. And I just talk about a couple of the next steps. But I just wanted to recap in terms of, we're not looking to increase the number of positions. We're not looking to eliminate positions. We're really, our goal is to keep this neutral. If through attrition or efficiencies, we don't need a position, we'll look at that, but we're not looking to downsize in particular or no layoffs, but I'll get into the transfer process and what that would mean for employees. Additionally, we're not looking to move everyone into one central location, because there really isn't one central location for what everyone would sit right now. For the foreseeable future, I would expect people to mainly be staying where they are right now. to the extent that we could have some groups co-located so they really kind of develop that sense of a team, would be ideal. But for the most part, the fiscal positions are already right in the Mayville campus. The ones that are not are at the sewer districts and at like DPF, like Carts and the Faulkner shop. So I don't anticipate much disruption to where people are physically located, which was a big concern of employees. So effectively what will happen is what's referred to as a transfer of function, and it would start with an order by the county executive to say, the fiscal duties X, Y, and Z will be performed by the Department of Finance. And then once that order is given, department heads will then have to identify the employees that do those tasks. And that's why we kind of did up front for them, kind of here's your preliminary list. These are the people we think should be on that list, so. But once he gives that order, that's the next step. Department heads will have to identify those people. And then, these lists will be posted. Employees will have a period in which to accept the transfer. HR will be noticing each employee individually with their rights of the transfer. And I think, let's see what's here. So, but within that process, just for full disclosure, and we disclose this in the employee meeting, that if an employee were to decline the transfer, they don't have a position anymore in their current department. They would have to be reassigned to and eligible for another position in the department if they didn't want to transfer, but they would be put on a preferred list. But we hope that doesn't happen. I'm hoping everyone will accept and we won't have any issues with respect to that. But we also, there are employees that aren't not on the list but believe they should be, would also have a right to petition to say that I should be on the list to transfer as well. So and then like I said, HR has to provide notices to all those employees, and then they would effectively transfer on next date. We had hoped to get that order issued by the end of June, but a couple of things have kind of delayed us there with some of the recent changes from positions like the budget director position. Now the budget has started, and then Ken Westfall in the HR department has announced his retirement in September. And so I want to be mindful of their part of the process and not start it until I know they're going to be able to be in a position to do those notices in a timely manner. So we're kind of looking at that. So it probably won't start this until late August, early September. But it will probably do it in groups of departments. So, I would hope by the end of the first quarter next year, sooner if we can, but I'm thinking no later than that, we should be able to have, kind of gone through these iterations. So I think, did I miss anything?
How many employees are you talking about?
In terms of transferring, there's probably, I'll say like 30 to 35 probably. I mean, yeah, I don't think it'll be more than that.
You said human services, was like 20 of those?
Yeah, because right now, like there's, a whole DSS has a pretty large fiscal unit, mental hygiene does, health department has a few people. So they're the biggest. And then the other, it might not be as many as 35, but probably at least 30.
One thing you may have missed, that the sheriff's office was.
Oh, yeah. So there's, yeah. So a couple caveats to the departments whose fiscal responsibilities would transfer. So in the case where, like the sheriff being an elected official, we're going to handle that differently than the rest of the departments. And he will retain his fiscal unit. And we're going to work on, establishing a dotted line for that unit to report into finance department for the, direction on, fiscal matters. But him being an elected official and for the fact it's a bigger operation. They already have an established fiscal unit, as opposed to, you know, the DA also being elected, but their fiscal matters are relatively small compared to the sheriff. So he's fine with somebody else handing it over to us. So like there won't be somebody that transfers from the DA's office into finance. That'll kind of get absorbed within the other positions that do transfer. And then the sewer districts, we'll have to see if there's any since they have boards, their boards might need to take action. You know, we'll have to investigate that as we move forward. Or it might just be that we do it more like an agreement of service that the you know, we're providing these services to the district. So we'll have to just kind of cross that bridge when we get to it. But, you know, so far, I mean, the you know, like Tom Walsh and Matt Olbeck, you know, they've been in these meetings and I think they're pretty supportive. Well, with the Olbecks, his wife works for the district. So we've already transitioned her like last year or something because of a conflict of interest there. So it's kind of already set up that way. So we'll just keep you updated as we go forward. Did you have a question?
Oh, no.
Oh.
I can wait for a second.
Oh, no, I saw you raise your hand, so.
No, I just leaned forward.
Oh, okay.
But I do have a question.
Uh-huh.
about- Now, all your positions that you're going to fill, they need the civil service exam passed before the hire, or is that all the way across the board for everything, or just certain?
No,
positions?
no. So for the most part, all of these positions are, I guess, considered open competitive. So they, you know, some of the, all of the positions under finance, except for my position in the budget director position, whether they're management or union, are tested positions. So, but right now, everyone will just transfer in their current title. So we're not worried about them having to take a test or anything like that to be transferred. Where we do have a concern is our current vacancies. So for new hires that aren't on a list right now, they would have to take a test in the future if they're appointed as what's called a provisional appointment.
So one of the pluses of this, it'll create more of a pipeline of people who can move up and
Yeah.
fill that middle.
Yeah. And just, you know, cross training, being able to, like, you know, if somebody goes out, you have somebody that can kind of fill in because you have an established backup. I mean, we have them within our finance department, but if somebody goes out in another department, I can't really send somebody over there or that sort of thing. And so we want to, you know, really develop that. Staff development is really going to be a key goal.
It's a great
That was a different conversation. In
Oh, that's all right.
Administrative services
Mm-hmm.
that I've watched. Not this conversation.
So, but we'll just keep you informed as we go. And if you have any questions, you know, feel free to reach out. If, you know, like I said, you know, we've, you know, gotten the word out to all employees and, you know, a couple of grumblings, but, you know, that's expected. It's a big change. And so we'll just manage through it best we can. And, you know, hopefully we'll get everyone to a comfort level.
Thank you.
It seems to me this is what should
Yeah, makes sense.
all along. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Other than working for a different department.
Yeah. And there is one other county I'll just mention too, like Onondaga County. I know the treasurer there, and they have a similar structure. And I've you know, talked with her quite a bit in terms of how they set things up. And even before I saw her org chart, you know, we had come up with ours, and then in the end, they're very similar. So, you know, she's been a good resource for some of these changes.
That
Yeah.
was one question I was going to ask. Did you model this after somebody else?
Well, like some of the ideas just came from my prior work experience, where, you know, other places I've worked and how we've been structured. And then, just kind of brainstorming. But I know most counties aren't really structured this way, but we've heard people say, well, let us know how it turns out, because we'd like to do the same. So, yeah. Yeah, I think trying to move it on data, yeah. So,
Anything else?
okay. And like I said, I'll send this presentation out so you can see the full thing.
Thank you.
Thank
Yep.
you for the-
Sure.
Okay, is there any other? Motion
May I so move?
I'll second that.
All right. We are adjourned.
Now we go to the parking lot and take the tour.
Oh,
I've already
Yeah.
been. I've already been.
Yeah, I was hoping it'd still be out there so I can go check my blood pressure. I'm just kidding.
I don't think it's accurate. I watched it.
I'm just kidding.